Hi, I'm Christian, and today we're going to take a look at something I really love, and that's long-distance running. When I'm running, I just feel in the moment. I'm not running away from something like a big scary bear, but I'm not running to something either. I'm just running, and I can't explain it. I love it. I'm sharing this with you because our big idea for today is following Jesus is like running a long-distance race. Let's watch the God story and see what we mean by that.
What is harder to catch the faster you run? Your breath. Hi everyone, it's Jen, and it's so nice to be with you today. Today's big idea is following Jesus is like running a long-distance race. Now, I do not run, and I definitely do not run in races, but there are some times when I'm trying to get to somewhere really quickly. So I want to tell you a story about a concert I went to a few years ago, and I actually won early entry because this concert was all like general admissions. When the doors open, people just run and get to where they can. So I thought I was going to get in front of everybody else. The problem was this early entry like free pass thing was given to about 200 other people. So outside getting ready to go, I really did feel like I was preparing for a race. I made sure that my camera was in this side and my phone was in this side, and I had everything all ready, and I had the right shoes, the right footwear on so that I could get there. And as soon as the doors opened, I took off and I ran like with everything in me. And luckily I was really lucky and was able to get right up on front on the barricade, which is where I wanted to be. This series we're looking at the New Testament book of Hebrews. Hebrews is such a cool book because it goes back through the Bible and highlights some of the stories of God's special family and how Jesus changes everything in the best way possible. Hebrews is also a pretty cool book because no one knows exactly who wrote it, but it's one of the best written books in the entire Bible. In this series, we're going to look at one chapter in Hebrews in particular, chapter 12. And today we're going to look at verses 1, 2, and 3. Oh, but first I need to tell you something. Our big idea, following Jesus is like running a long-distance race, is called a simile. A simile is when you use the words like or as to compare two different things. For example, your eyes are like the brown pebbles of a stream, or your sock smells like an ogre's breath. You get the idea. So when we say following Jesus is like running a long-distance race, we're not saying you have to run to follow Jesus, but we're saying that is what following Jesus is like. So let's read together from Hebrews chapter 12. A huge cloud of witnesses is all around us. So let us throw off everything that stands in our way. Let us throw off any sin that holds on to us so tightly, and let us keep on running the race marked out for us. Let us keep looking to Jesus. He is the one who started this journey of faith, and he is the one who completes the journey of faith. He paid no attention to the shame of the cross. He suffered there because of the joy he was looking forward to. Then he sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. He made it through these attacks by sinners. So think about him. Then you won't get tired. You won't lose hope. So let's go back to the beginning. A huge cloud of witnesses is all around us. What does that mean? They are followers of Jesus who have gone before us. If you read the previous chapter of Hebrews, you will see a list of names of people who follow Jesus and love Jesus with all of their heart. And if you look around the room here today, you will see people around you that also love and follow Jesus. They are the great cloud of witnesses today. Next, we are told to throw off anything that stands in our way. For runners, they try not to wear too much bulky clothing because it might slow them down when they run. So it's the same thing with following Jesus, but what could stand in our way? Well, the things that could distract us from following Jesus. So what that is for you might be different than what it is for me. For me, it can often be my cell phone and playing games and getting distracted by stuff on here. For you, it might be video games, or it might even be thinking thoughts that aren't from God. So the writer of Hebrews says to throw off these things. Picture something heavy on your back. That's like your distraction, and to throw it off. And the writer says that includes any sin that might try to hold tightly onto us. So maybe you have a hard time telling the truth or holding on to things that aren't yours. These things get in the way of living God's way, and we need to throw them off. And as we do that, the writer says to keep running the race that's marked out for us. What is this race marked out for us? That's the way of Jesus. God calls us all to treat life like a race where Jesus is the finish line. And Jesus can also be our role model because he ran that race. We may not always be able to see the course so clearly, but we can follow Jesus and also the example of other people around us. In fact, the writer reminds us to keep looking to Jesus. Things may seem blurry around us, but when we focus on Jesus, he shows us the way. Even when things seem difficult, maybe you want to give up, just think about Jesus. Remember all that he did and have hope that you can keep going. So what's in this race? What's on your track? What's going to come before you? That's all part of the excitement of running this race called life with Jesus. The key of it all is to keep your eyes on Jesus. Know him, love him, and follow his example and keep going. Following Jesus is like running a long distance race. Well, friends, it was so good to be with you. I will see you next time. On your mark, get set, go.
Hey friends, turn to the person next to you
and answer the following questions before the time runs out.
Question time!
Who are the great cloud of witnesses mentioned in Hebrews 12, verse 1? People who love Jesus, people who live in the clouds, or people who see clearly? People who love Jesus? What things distract you from following Jesus? What does the Bible say to do with everything that distracts us from following Jesus? Follow it, forget about it, or throw it off? Throw it off.
Game time! Mad Lab. How many times can you say the key verse before things get gooey? Say it with me.
My child, think of the Lord's training as important. The Lord trains the one he loves. Hebrews 12, verses 5 and 6.
Get ready. 3, 2, 1, go!
Wow. As I mentioned before, I love to run, and I totally get that concept that we have to get rid of all the extra weight when we're running. It also takes a lot of discipline and endurance to train when you might feel tired or when you want to go out with friends. But let me tell you, when you finish a race and you feel well prepared, it's all worth it. I want to share with you the story of our friend Micah. Let's watch this and see what we can learn from him.
My name is Micah. I'm 11 years old. I like watching sports, eating pancakes, and telling jokes.
So with COVID, we went from being a family that was into a lot of extracurricular activities to being home. So we went from being really like an external family to being really insular, just ourselves.
I like to play with my friends, but when COVID hit, we couldn't play in person as much, and we couldn't go to school and play. It made me upset because I had really no one to play with or talk with, so I had to play by myself.
So Micah went from being really pretty outgoing to being very quiet, a little bit sad. He did experience a little bit of anxiety. He asked a lot of questions. We didn't have a lot of answers. He would have moments of where he would just experience complete overwhelm. And he would also he'd wake up with nightmares. And sometimes even during the day, like he'll be working through something and he'd just have that image come back of whatever it was he dreamt about. And that would take over everything. So he could not move past it while he had these horrible thoughts in his head. It was a bit of definitely a shift from who he was. in order to help Micah, deal with some of the anxiety that he was feeling and the frustration and the overwhelm, his aunt and uncle had suggested maybe drawing out what he was seeing, and the pictures he was seeing in his head and what he was, dreaming about. So he would draw out pictures, and then we'd sit and we'd talk through, what it was that he drew, like what's the significance of that and what does this mean? And then so we would focus more on the picture.
I didn't really tell anyone that I was sad or lonely. So me drawing helped me express what I was feeling at that time.
And it was easy for him to talk through the picture than to talk through these obscure feelings that he was having. And that seemed to help him because he knew he was able to get the picture out of his head and then talk through it, and it helped him not having to carry it around himself. We'd spent a lot of time praying through what it was he was feeling and asking God for answers because we didn't have them necessarily. It really helped him manage. His personality popped again. He was his back to his old self.
As a family, we went for walks, and we also used to play like board games, like dominoes and chess. We also, during Christmas, we got a Nintendo, so we played Just Dance. When I'm doing stuff with my family, it takes my mind off the bad stuff. Yeah, I like spending time with them because it's fun and it makes me laugh.
We do still have, moments where, it's hard to manage, but what we did learn is we have to endure and we move through things. There's gonna be hard things in life. There's gonna be things that happen that are out of our control, that we don't have answers to. But what we need to do is continue to hold on to what we know. We know God is there. We know He's for us. We know we've got family that we can lean on and depend on.
If you have anxiety or feeling lonely, talk to someone or talk to God, because it makes you feel better if you talk to someone so they can help, or if you talk to God, He can help.
In anything that we are doing, anything that we're going through, we need to work through it. We need to take the time that it takes to develop that muscle. We have to practice to get better at it. And we also have to practice at getting better at enduring hard things. We have to practice prayer. We have to practice, reading God's word to tell us what we need to do to get through the tough things. I think that's the most important thing, and I think that's what God really wants us to do, is just to do a little bit better every day.
Wow, I love what Micah and his mom shared, that we can talk to God when we're going through hard things, that we should practice prayer, and that with Jesus, we can do a little bit better every day. And to bring that back to our God story, let's break with stuff in our lives that's holding us back, and let's focus on Jesus. He is our hope, and with Him, we'll get through the good and the bad times well. Let's break into our small groups and see what this looks like in our own lives. Bye!